Hi, everybody. We are coming to you live in our own lockdown quarantined places. We're, what, are we 8 days into our lockdown in our homes, something like that here in Michigan? And, we've been getting a lot of questions just online and just our clients calling in, wondering such things as, can I buy a house still? Can I sell a house? Questions like, I just lost my job. What do I do about my mortgage? What about inspections? Like, how are all these things going to affect us now? And how do we get through it? We've decided that we would like to bring together some of the best minds in the greater Lansing area, and we've got a good team together. So I'm going to have everyone introduce themselves. My name is Rachel Jones. I am a realtor with REMAX in Okemos. Joe?
My name is Joe Joseph. I'm a senior VP at Dart Bank and mortgage origination loan officer.
I'm Jason Merton with Accurate Inspections, property inspector in the greater Lansing area.
And I'm Jessica Artaby, an agent in Delta Township with Farm Bureau Insurance.
Great. So we have a fabulous team, and we're going to just kind of start with some questions, hoping to answer them to the best of our ability and to put some ease into your minds, and also confidence that you can still buy and sell in this economy. So I guess the first question, let's go to Joe, I guess, because a lot of people have questions about just mortgages and interest rates, and what is your industry doing and looking like right now?
Well, our industry, for the most part, has been remote and contactless for quite a while now. So for us, we've got our staff working remotely from their homes, not really skipping a beat for the most part with the processing, the underwriting, that type of thing. What we're seeing is rates kind of all over the board. Some lenders are keeping them low because of the liquidity and capacity issues. Some are having to increase their rates a bit. So we're kind of seeing them all over the board, depending on the day. A lot of volatility in the marketplace. You can see that with the stock market, and that's affecting the mortgage rates as well. The Fed has been buying mortgage-backed security bonds, which at the same time can have an effect, very volatile market because of that. Other than that, the biggest impact we've had, the two biggest issues, has been appraisals. And before, with anywhere from 3% to 20% down, we normally needed an interior appraisal. They're now allowing for either a desktop or an exterior drive-by. Most lenders want the exterior drive-by. And so that's given us the ability to not have to have the appraiser go in the home. Sometimes with 20% down or more, we're able to waive the appraisal if Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae's system allows for it. And then obviously the other issue is closings and how they're being dealt with, getting people into the title companies, trying to keep them away from obviously others. And a lot of the title companies have come up with ways to make it contactless. So from our standpoint, from the closing side, we're really still in a good position and able to close within timeframes that are needed.
That's great. So it sounds like from what I'm hearing is, if let's say a buyer has a lender that they've been working with, and all of a sudden they get a call from the lender that says, oh, just kidding, we either can't close for another couple months because who knows why, they just say, we just can't close right now. We're not doing any new loans. Would it be appropriate for them to reach out to other lenders to see if somebody else could step in and close that loan? Absolutely.
There's a lot of unknown going on right now. We're hitting uncharted territories here. And some of the banks, the boards and the banks, they're concerned. They don't really know what the future is going to hold here. So some of them are making some decisions that aren't necessarily what the rest of the industry is doing. So absolutely, talk to other companies and see what they're able to do.
I think that's great advice. And then just with the closing side of things, I just had a closing today, and actually you were the lender on that as well. And you did a fabulous job, so thank you. But what I guess just wanted to put out there is that the title companies are sanitizing everything. They've got different protocols to keep everyone safe. I know at Diversified, at Greater Lansing Title, they are sanitizing every room, making sure that only one side of the table or one side of the closing is there at a time. And they are having people call in to see and to make sure that the prior closing is completely finished. I've also heard of drive-by closings. I guess that sounds a little bit funny, but where the closers actually come out to the car and have you sign there. So from that standpoint, I think the industry is doing a fantastic job in trying to keep everyone safe and just away from each other.
Absolutely. The closings, from our process and the closing, it's a little more tedious. Obviously, we have to be careful with some things, but for the most part, we're not skipping a beat. We've
awesome.
been fortunate, very fortunate.
Yeah, I think that's great. So, well, moving on from the lender point of view. So if you're in the process of buying a home, your first contact would either be with a real estate agent or a lender. And then if you did reach out to a lender, then the next part would be to reach out to a real estate agent. And so the questions that I've been receiving, how do we buy a house now? Do I even put my house on the market? Like, is it a good time? From our perspective, earlier today, we had 948 active homes on the market. Last year at this time, there were about 1,400 or 1,500. So that tells you that there aren't a lot of homes for sale. And to give you some perspective, this number was relatively the same a few weeks ago before we had the coronavirus. So it was completely a seller's market in the Greater Lansing area. So now we still see that same number, not as many homes coming on the market, and the buyer pool is a lot less as well. So going forward, and the answer or the question, should we buy a home now? There's some great advantages to being able to purchase a home right now. For instance, because just a few weeks ago, the housing market was so crazy, you would often run into multiple offer situations. So you'd put an offer in on a house, and if you weren't, considerably higher than the asking price, and if you didn't have a clean offer, meaning there were no contingencies, you weren't asking for closing costs, it was really difficult for you to win that bid on that house. Well, now in our current state, it's a lot easier. There's not as many buyers out there looking for houses. They're kind of put everything on hold. So what that means for the current buyers is it's a lot easier for you to secure a house without having to play the whole multiple offer thing. On the seller side, some people still need to sell, and there are buyers out there. And so if you are needing to sell, you can absolutely sell your house. And if you'd like to hold off a while, that's great too. Our suggestion is to get your house ready, to clean it up, to clear it out, get your house in pristine order so that when the market comes back, you are ready to sell. And just some word of caution on that, if you are thinking, there's so many unknowns, one thing that we do know right now is there are not a lot of homes for sale. That means your competition in selling your house is not going to be as high, and you're going to be able to shine without a lot of that competition and potentially get a quicker offer depending on what the market does on the flip side of where we are today. So once you have an offer in place and accepted, one of the things that we strongly encourage people to do is to get a home inspection. So Jason, let's go to you and talk about what your thoughts are about how things are going right now, and take it away.
Yep. We're still pretty busy finishing up transactions that were in the works. And then as more people are buying, we're doing those inspections as normal, except we don't have clients there anymore. With the governor's ruling, we are allowed to do those inspections, but we have to do them by ourselves. Doing Zoom during the inspection, we're doing Skype, we're doing FaceTime, just depending on what the client has. We are wearing PPE protection stuff when we are doing those inspections. But other than that, it's going as normal. We just don't get to enjoy the time with the client, I'm afraid.
So how does that work then? You know, if you're going in there by yourself, you said you're obviously wearing protective gear, which is fantastic. But what about the seller? Should they be home?
The sellers need to leave the home. The vacant houses, of course, are easy. The not vacant houses aren't so easy. So hopefully they can go for a drive. They can go grocery shopping. They can do something to vacate the house for a couple hours while we're doing our inspection.
Yeah, so that's really a great thing to throw out there, because I'm sure, you know, with the lifting of the, you know, the ban of the inspection, we don't want that to happen again because people aren't leaving their house for long enough.
Right.
Because that was that's one of the stipulations, is that you are there by yourself.
Correct.
So that's good to know. So another question about inspections. You know, what happens if someone says, you know, I really don't have the extra money for inspection, or they're just worried about the future and wanting to save that extra few $100s? What would you say to that?
Buying a home is usually the biggest investment a person makes. And I hate to make that big investment without spending the $300 to $400 for an inspection, so you know what you're buying.
Yeah, so have you had, can you give us some examples maybe of things that you've seen in an inspection that may not, you know, a buyer may not be just, you know, if you're walking through a home?
Well, we had an interesting situation just last week. We were called to do an inspection, and we had to set a rate on before the inspection. So we were there 2 days before the inspection was scheduled. And when I walked down to the basement, it was a vacant house, very nice house, but vacant. The basement was full of water. Because of the rain that we had last Monday, rain and snow, it melted, their sump pump went out, and we walked into a basement full of water. Had we not been doing that inspection, who knows when they would have found out that that house that was under contract had flooded, and we could have had a far worse situation. You know, hate for something like that to happen, but it does.
Absolutely. So it's better just to protect yourself up front and get that inspection done. And yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Well, great. Okay. Well, and let's move on to Jessica now and talk a little bit about homeowners insurance. So Jessica, maybe just, you know, explain that when you do purchase a home with a lender, I mean, is homeowners insurance, is that required? And just your kind of thoughts on what's going on with the market today.
Yeah, mainly homeowners insurance is always required during the process of buying a home. I do come in and out of my office still. I'm able to work remotely. I'm holding virtual meetings like this or over the phone. I can do things electronically. So I'm still continuing working, just unfortunate, not face-to-face with people currently. Usually when you have your homeowners, it's in your escrow account as well. So usually those payments are just still being made, or I do have a customer service line that clients are able to use for financial hardships during these times that are viewed case by case. But I'm still talking to clients and helping them with their homeowners insurance. Just very unfortunate, not face to face right now.
Sure. Have you run into, or anyone you know, run into the situation where maybe a client, whether they're renting or have purchased a home, maybe lost their job and they're so nervous at just about what the future holds that they call and say, you know, I just really think that it's in my best interest not to have insurance anymore?
Actually, I haven't received any of those calls yet, but I do have a lot of communication with the VPs at my corporate office in regards to when we do start getting those calls. So I am prepared for those, and it will be case by case. And of course, I'm going to encourage people to try to keep their insurance, because I would hate for a loss to happen and there be no coverage. So
absolutely.
From a lender's perspective, you have to have insurance, not just that purchase, but if there's an underlying lien on that home, we're going to require insurance. And if there's not insurance, we're going to do forced place. We're going to get insurance on the home for them. So it's important that homeowners are maintaining those insurance premiums.
That's good to know. Yeah. Great.
Thank you.
Yeah. So going back to just, I guess, purchasing a home, another question I get a lot is, well, we don't really want to buy a house without seeing it. So how can that happen? So just from my point of view, and what I've been doing for my clients is setting up virtual tours for them. So whether using Zoom or FaceTime or Marco Polo is a great app to make videos. Something such as that, where you're able to walk through the home. It gives you a little bit better idea of how the home is set up rather than just pictures. And you can kind of really get a feel for it. And also, I really like the FaceTime or the Zoom, because you can talk to the buyer, and the seller can communicate with each other and ask questions. One very important question for me is, are there pets in the home? Because one thing that you cannot determine when you're doing a virtual tour is, how does that house smell?
And that's something that I'm able to help with during the inspection too. I have had a couple houses recently where the buyer hadn't seen the house except via video. So that's a question they ask me is, how clean is it? How does it smell? Is there any odors?
That's great. I mean, it's great to have a team behind the buyers and the sellers for that matter, but having a great team that will have your back, where you can reach out to your inspector who is going to go inside the house. Does it smell? Is there anything else that kind of feels off to you? You can use them as a resource. Absolutely. So that's great. So, so I did mention kind of working with a team. It's imperative to have a good team behind you. And when I say team, I'm talking about your lender, your homeowner, your homeowner's insurance, your inspector. We all work together, and your title company for that matter. They are huge as well. But we all work together to make sure that you've got a smooth transition, whether you're buying or selling a home. And, you really want, especially in this market, you really want people that are in the business full time, that have a lot of experience, that have bought and sold lots of houses, have done a lot of mortgages, have done a lot of insurance, and have done a lot of inspections. We know from our experience what things are like in a fabulous market. So taking that information and moving it into a market that we're in right now, we know a lot of the tricks, we know a lot of the tips to help you make sure that your buying and selling experience is top-notch and smooth. And most importantly, when hiccups do come along, we're able to work through those because we have so much experience. Does anyone like to speak to that?
Oh, I think the experience is very, very important. I think it's important that you have people that are working together, realtors, lenders, title people, inspectors, everybody, insurance people. If we're working together, we're going to get the best outcome in the end for the client. You don't want adversarial situations within those groups of people. So it's very important that people are working together to put the client in the absolute best position in the end.
Absolutely. So going forward, I guess one of just the last question I have for each one of you is, what do you think our market is going to do once we're done? What are your thoughts in your individual industries?
I think it's really going to take off. I think there's going to be a little pent up demand because we do have some buyers sitting by the side right now and waiting. So I think it'll take off as soon as we get the go ahead to go look at houses again.
I agree with Jason. I think we're going to see. I think there'll be a lot of pent up frustration. People ready to get out there, ready to buy, ready to do something. Rates are going to stay relatively low. We've been pretty spoiled with them being in the low threes right now. But anything in the mid threes, high threes, still great historical rates. And so, we're going to hit the spring market, the summer market, and I think we're going to see things really kind of take off.
I agree as well. I think it's going to take off, and I have faith that it will, and looking forward to the day when that does happen.
Absolutely. Don't we all? just to tag on to what Joe was saying about interest rates, just to, you know, push a little bit further on that. When you are buying a house and having the interest rate so low, that gives you more buying power. So you're able to buy more house and not have to worry about as much interest. So wanted to put that plug in there. But I want to thank each one of you guys. Do you have anything else to add before we close up here?
No, thanks, Rachel, for putting this together. This was great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, thanks, Rachel. Great job. It's a good group of people you have here with giving their insight.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. And maybe we could do it again in a few weeks. I'm also going to put your contact information just as I share this. So we'll do that and people can contact us if they have further questions. So thank you guys so much. And I hope to see you in person very soon.
Yep.
Thank
Have a good
you.
evening.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night. Bye.